I actually drew a peanut right here. As you can see, this is a peanut. Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different from normal. I know you're used to me talking about things like psychology concepts and stuff like this, but I've been seeing a lot of stuff recently that's it's not looking good, honestly, related to finance. I see that a lot of people just don't know what the hell they're talking about, but don't worry. Professor Kiker is here to help. I'm here to instruct you on how you can secure a financial future. Now, I know this might sound a little off. It might sound a little bit condescending, but I promise I'm really not trying to be. I'm trying to just empower people so that they can have the ability to grow their finances in the future, have a really bright outlook for the future. But we're going to be running a lot of numbers today, so I'm going to need you to keep real close attention to the whiteboard today. All right, it's going to get a little complicated, but bear with me. I promise I will make it make sense. Now, understand, like I said, I'm trying to empower you with the information that I'm about to give you. So just hear me out before you start furiously typing around on your keyboard to tell me how angry you are at me, okay? Because I know some people, after this conversation today, they might feel like Professor Kiker was coming for their throat a little bit, not going to lie. But I'm not, I promise. I just want to give people the tools that they need to succeed, as always. It's what my job always, every day here is. And any of the calculators that I use and any of the information that I use, I will be sourcing downstairs in the description. So go check it out. And, So anyway, the first thing that we're going to talk about today is why your savings account is a terrible place to be putting your money. It is quite possibly the single worst place to be putting your money if you're trying to secure yourself a financial future. And I know that there's a lot of people out there, they seem to have this idea, right, that if they just save, they'll become wealthy someday. But this is just, it's total bullshit. This is just something that I don't know who came up with this shit actually, but it's wrong. It's just incorrect. People who don't know about money are the ones who came up with that concept. A lot of people say to themselves, I'll be wealthy if I just don't eat a Chipotle burrito every week or something like that. Say you eat your Chipotle burrito every week and you're going to give that up so that you can save some money. Let me explain why this doesn't make any fucking sense here. Okay? We're going to use something that I have invented called the burrito index. Okay? Now, follow me on this one. I know this sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook at this point, but I promise that it's not, and I promise it will make sense. So, if we go to Chipotle and we have a basic-ass burrito every single week, it's about $8.71, at least where I was. I went on Chipotle's website and checked just to make sure. Buying that every week, but we're going to use 9 just so that the math looks better, looks easier, looks cleaner. I don't like decimals, and neither do you. So just to make it look better, we're going to use 9 instead. So, let's assume that you want to have one burrito every week of the month. Okay, just one day out of every week, you're going to eat your burrito. Okay? So that's $9 times 4. It's going to give you $36 a month. All right? Now, 36 times 12, 432. Easy. Here. I'm going to throw some numbers at you in a second here. I have it pre-written, actually, because this is going to get kind of complicated, and I wanted to quadruple check my work before I shared it with my students, all right? So anyway, $432 per year. All right, now let's do that for 10 years. We've saved up a total of, let's see here, $4,320 in 10 years. 10 years. Here, let me just follow me on this one. Now, let's assume we do that for 30 years, okay? If you do that for 30 years, now keep in mind, this is ignoring inflation. Obviously, things will get more expensive over time. But if we do that for 30 years, $12,960 is how much you've saved after 30 fucking years. That's almost half the lifespan of the average human. That is ridiculous. That is, you know, for that amount of money, you might be able to go ahead and get yourself a used Honda Beater from down the street from some guy named Gerald that you've barely met before but still calls himself your neighbor whenever he needs something. That's the amount of money that you manage to save by giving that up every week for 30 years. You've managed to do that. Now, let's go even further, Rick. Let's say we're going to throw this in there, and we're going to throw it in a savings account, okay, for 30 years. Okay, now, the savings account, on average, I looked up the national average, will grow by about 0.06% every year. Okay, now, I know that's obviously a small number, but that's the national average for a savings account. Now, if we do that for 30 years at the amount of money per year, we've grown our money from $12,960 to $13,077. By including that in the savings account, you've made about $117 in 30 years. That's how much you've made by keeping it in a savings account. Now, I know a lot of you out there with the growing economy, people are starting to learn more. They're starting to really educate themselves a lot more. But they've started to use these things called high-yield savings accounts. They compound more frequently. You get more money out of them. They have a better interest rate. Now, I looked up the average, okay, for what a high-yield savings account can do. Or no, wait, no. It wasn't the average. I used NerdWallet's highest estimation for what can possibly be done with one of these high-yield savings accounts right now. So the numbers that I use are 0.6%. 0.6%, okay? Or 0.65%. I use 0.65% over the course of 30 years. All right? So 0.65% over 30 years in your high-yield savings account garners you, drum roll, folks, drum roll, all right? Here, you have earned $14,313 from using your high-yield savings account. That's like $1,000 more than using the worst vessel imaginable in a savings account to grow your money. So congratulations. You can now get your Honda Accord beater that's 30 years old from Gerald down the street from using your high-yield savings account for so long. But this isn't even the whole picture, guys. It gets much worse. Much, much, much worse. Because now you have to adjust for inflation. Now, keep in mind the way that I was calculating for inflation here is more talking about purchasing power than how much money it will actually be. So, in 30 years, that $14,313, after being inflation adjusted for purchasing power, your $14,313 is the equivalent of right now having $5,896.77. So now you can't even go get the beater down the street from Gerald. That's not enough money for his beater. He doesn't want anything to do with you. This almost $6,000, let's say, that can buy you all of jack shit nothing. That's like, for most people, that's 6 months of rent, and that's it. You're done after that. Guys, this is about purchasing power. We have to preserve your PP. We have to keep your PP safe. Your purchasing power. It needs to remain safe. So now, you're probably sitting there saying to yourself, well, Tom, what the hell do I do? This can get kind of confusing. I don't know what the fuck I should be doing. Well, luckily for you, there are some surefire ways to make sure that you preserve your PP over the years. Now here, we're going to start showing you some actual whiteboard. Your good friend whiteboard is coming in, all right? So I actually drew a peanut right here, as you can see. This is a peanut. It's meant to represent the amount of money that you make from saving and putting it in a savings account, be it high yield or not high yield. So anyway, if we go ahead and we skip the peanuts and we go and we track something called the S&P 500. Now, for those of you who don't know, the S&P 500 is something that tracks about 500 different companies throughout the stock market, and it grows year over year by 10%. That's the return that you're looking at. I'm not sure if you can see that right here, but 10% year over year returns. Okay, so those numbers come from looking at how much it's grown year over year from 1957 to 2021. So you can expect to get a 10% yearly average. This is a huge amount of data, a huge amount of years that are put into these calculations. You can kind of trust that over time it will be 10% year over year average. So if we just take that money, right, and we invest it in a fund that follows the S&P 500, okay, just an S&P 500 index tracker, all right? If we do that, okay, if we do that, 10%, 30 years, with $36 per month, you end up, here, look, get a gander. You get a gander right there. $36 will end up turning into a massive, whopping $82,055. And then for good measure, let's just throw it in our inflation calculator again, and you'll end up with a PP of $33,805.87. So that's nearly 3 times what your savings account would have given you if you had done the same amount of work with your money. Just put it in an investing account instead that just simply tracks the S&P 500 index. Easy. You come on, guys. It couldn't be easier than that. You know you can do it. Now, obviously, the longer we invest our money, the bigger our overall returns are going to be. So let's use a real world example here, all right, to put this a little bit into perspective. An 18-year-old is working a part-time job, makes around $560 a month, gross before taxes. This is assuming he's getting paid like $14 an hour. He spends 10 hours a week working. So he's like a college student, you know what I'm saying? Pretty average story nowadays for most Americans. Let's be extremely conservative with this student's hours here. And let's pretend that they take just a measly $150 from their pay and they invest those earnings into investments instead of putting it in a savings account. Now, after 30 years at 10%, keep your socks on for this one, guys, all right? After 30 years at 10%, they're going to be 48 years old, and they will have access to $341,898.80 whenever they want it. Whenever they want it, guys. Whenever they want it. Now, this is the kind of power that your money has. So, if we take that, all right, and let's do our PP calculation. In 30 years, that money will be the equivalent of right now having $184,063. Obviously, way more money than what you would get out of a savings account. That's just throw the idea of a savings account out the window until you get your finances with investing in order, all right? It is truly the worst vessel for carrying your money. Now, after inflation, let's preserve PP. Like I said, $184,063.12. Okay, cool. Let's bump our calculator up to 45 years because then they'll be about retirement age. They'll be in their mid-60s, something like that, roughly retirement age. If you do that, over 45 years of putting in only $150 per month, every month, into investing, what they end up with is a grand total of $1,585,478.38. Now, to be fair, let's adjust for PP. That purchasing power will be the equivalent of today having $572,000 $207.72. The inflation that I used for all of these calculations is a little bit higher than the reported average of 2.5%. I used 3% because, let's be real, we all know that it's way higher than what it's reported at. So, with only $150 per month, you end up having a PP of $572,207 at retirement to just do whatever the fuck you want with. Now, as your income increases, you can bump this up higher. You can start making a better financial plan. But this is just for that college student who's 18 years old, which is when I highly recommend getting into this. I made the mistake personally of waiting to get started on investing because just like you listeners out there, I thought, oh, I'll just put it in a savings account. I'll be fine. I'll just leave it in a checking account. I'll be fine. I don't need to invest yet. What am I, like a grandpa? I don't need to do that yet. What do you mean? But I really wish that I had started about 8 years ago, because if I had started 8 years ago instead of 2 years ago, I would have shitloads of money compared to what I have today. I might honestly have enough money to already pull myself out of debt, my student debt, that is. But unfortunately, I didn't do that. And it's not about blaming past you for what you've already done. It's about preparing yourself to be a better future you. Like I said, I'm trying to empower you to have a safer financial future. Now, once your income increases and you bump this up, you can increase the amount. But like I was talking about with my debt, it's always better to pay off high interest rate debt first, because that's the kind of stuff that's really going to sneak up on you in both the short and long runs. The earlier you start, the easier this process is going to be. Start at age 18. Now you ask, Tom, I don't know shit about investing. How do you expect me to accomplish all this? Well, my young friend. Luckily for you, I have a couple of ways that you don't really need to know a whole lot about investing in order to still take advantage of this. There are all kinds of different things nowadays that you can take advantage of called robo-advisors. These robo-advisors are essentially algorithms, they're AI, that can determine what should be invested in, what should be purchased, stock to bond ratio. It projects things for you. It can make accurate predictions about what your wealth will look like if you continue to make certain contributions. It can manage your money for you for relatively low management fees. So it's kind of just a good idea all around. So you could either choose to use a robo-advisor like what I do. I do both investing myself and I use a robo-advisor. But the robo-advisor that I use is Betterment. But you can choose to use other ones too. There's Betterment, there's Wealthfront, SoFi. They all have good robo-advisors that you can choose to use. And it just kind of works, guys. I mean, if you want to learn more about handling your money yourself, I always recommend going to Investopedia whenever somebody asks me about stuff like this. But if you really truly don't know what you're doing, just let the robo-advisor do it for you. Why struggle with the system? Why fight against it? Just work with the tools that you have available to you. It's easier that way, and you can make a lot of money over a period. Well, that was great. It turns out you can't finance your way out of stopping your camera from dying on you. It's always fantastic. But anyway, as I was saying, the longer you invest, the better off you'll be. You can use one of these robo-advisors, and they just help you grow your money in a way that you just can't with a savings account. If you are using a savings account, savers are losers. You are literally losing your money, your hard-earned cash, by putting it in a savings account. It is a terrible idea. Now, of course, after you get some money together, after you're no longer in debt, after you have some investments coming in, you have some extra spare cash, yes, you should have a small nest egg, typically an emergency fund, depending on your profession, where you live, things like that, of at least 3 months minimum. 3 months minimum. But that's only after you get everything else set up, and it's for emergency use exclusively. So, but I also recommend doing a couple of other things as well. You should diversify when you do things like invest, highly recommend choosing bonds with some of your portfolio, and I highly recommend assigning some real estate to your portfolio. I actually started recently using something called Fundrise, which allows you to start investing in real estate at only $10 to create an account. And honestly, I've had pretty good returns so far. You can go and check out other people's returns as well. Like I know Marco at Whiteboard Finance, he's an amazing resource. Highly recommend watching his videos. He teaches you a ton about finance, but he has a video about Fundrise where he shows his returns over time. I haven't been using it long enough to do a video like that yet, but I will. In a year, you can expect something like that. And you should keep in mind, though, that when you do something like Fundrise, the money that you put in is way less liquid than the money in the stock market, for example. You should expect to keep that in there for about 5 years minimum. So don't go like, investing all of your money that you were going to use for groceries to feed you and your kids into real estate because, you need it. I know this might sound obvious, but I know someone out there is already signing up for an account and getting ready to put his kids' grocery money for the week in there. Don't do that. Don't be dumb. Just use your brains, people. I know that you guys know this. It's just you need someone to smack you on the ass and get you with the picture. All right. I know that you know this. I know I'm lecturing right now, but you gotta figure it out. You gotta just do it. All right. It takes some discipline, but it's worth it in the end. I promise. You want to have passive income. You want to have a ton of money ready to go. You want to have a high net worth. You have to invest. It's your only option. If you aren't literally going to be making $300,000 a year, you have no chance if you aren't investing. It is your only choice. Real estate, bonds, stocks. Only 3 choices. If you aren't doing those 3 basic things, you're probably going to be pretty hopeless as far as your finances are concerned in 30 years from now. You don't really have a choice unless you like living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, if that's what you're into, you can do that. But I know I threw a ton of information at you guys today. My goal, of course, like I said, is not to be super condescending. My goal with this video is to try and give you guys some feeling of empowerment. Like you have some control, you know what I mean, over your situation. You can determine your own future, financially speaking. It is possible. I know there's a lot of people nowadays who, they're down on the whole money thing. They're like, oh, I'm just going to be poor forever. Well, if you don't do one of these 3 things at least, even though you should be doing all 3, yeah, you will be poor forever. But if you do all of these 3 things, you might be able to at least stay in the middle class, right? Right? Like, come on, guys. It's just obvious that this is what you should do. Now, like I said, empowerment. You really can determine your own destiny here, but you have to lay the groundwork. Okay, if you can do all of these simple steps, you will have successfully laid a foundation, a groundwork to be financially successful and have tons of cash on hand later in life. And you'll also have a larger income than your peers on average, just simply by doing these 3 things because they generate income for you as well. First, it'll be small. It'll seem like it's not worth it. But in 30 years, you'll come back, comment on this video, thank fuck Tom told me something. So do it. Get investing, goddamn you. Betterment, Wealthfront, SoFi, and Fundrise. Use those tools to your advantage, okay? You need to open your own portfolio to do it yourself. Investopedia and Charles Schwab. Great broker. Try it. Go for it. Just give it a chance, all right? Like, even if it's a tiny amount of money every month, I know you can do it. You have this power. And, yeah. That's about all I got for you guys tonight. Come check out the stream if you ever get a chance. I'm live every single day at 8 p.m. And I know that this was a little bit more aggressive than you're used to, but I promise I'm just trying to help you. It really doesn't come from a bad place. I'm just tired of people being so down on themselves and having that learned helplessness, that learned hopelessness. It just breaks my heart Get yourself out of it. Don't let yourself fall for these tricks that people tell you. Don't use a savings account until you really can spare the money, and just invest. Those are the key hallmarks of this video. That's all I got for you. See you on my stream. Bye, guys.